Dan, tell us a little bit about what you do in between competitions. Okay, I know there's a lot of ways that we can do it, and I know that competitions do back up back to back, but give us a little bit of an understanding about how you approach what you're doing training-wise, lifestyle-wise, in between the competitions, the runs, etc.
I journal. No, so we're probably not the most orthodox when it comes to recovery, when it comes to obviously taking that time away from competition. We'll use Andorra as an example. Our biggest thing was we hit the ultramarathon, we did the race, etc., and then we went straight to Barcelona pretty much, went out for 2 days. Yeah, and that was a good way, as much as you look at that from the outside thinking, we've just gone on the piss for 2 days. We just spent 3-4 months of training, not going out, not really doing anything that's other than training, family, chilling, nothing else. Like, we're both fairly social and wanting to do certain things. That is a good way for us, especially, to decompress, to let steam off a little bit, but also come back feeling refreshed, ready to hit the next block of training. I think that's definitely some people definitely overlook that in having some enjoyment back in their life. I think if you look at all avenues, whether it's fitness, whether it's bodybuilding, whatever it is, they hit these competitions and they go straight back to type and go straight back to the usual grind. And then these sessions soon become pretty fucking boring because you've just done 4 months with no outlet. Like, as much as a competition is good, like, we love the process. We always talk about that, don't we? Yeah. Competition is just a little part of that process, the cherry on top. Well, we want to get back to the grind of doing things, but you want to make sure when you get back to that process that you're refreshed and ready to go. And I think that's one big thing that we've definitely adopted. Recovery-wise, probably not the best thing in the world that we did, but mentally, I'd say we're fucking bang on the money. What about yourself?
Yeah.
What do you like to do?
I think there's a huge element of like looking at your whole training year or looking at your competition year, for example, or at least say 6 months. Like for you, there was Andorra, there was a set block of time, then there was the Lakeland.
Yeah.
So for me, I always look at what competitions I've got leading up and I judge how long I've got in between each competition. And then I know how many weeks I've got in between each competition to prepare for that. Now, if it's something similar, like, for example, Andorra into Lakeland, you know you've already built up a big set of mileage. You already know you've done that kind of work. So for me, I use the analogy of I like to stretch the band and bring it back. So 100% what you've just said there is I like to chill out after competition for that mental reset. The big psychological rest makes me stronger, makes me want to come back into the training room and go at it really hard.
Yep.
But it depends how long we've got till the next race. It all depends on what is coming next. So if there is a competition and then 3 months later there is another one of something similar, we know we've got a week or two grace where we can just deload, train less, get some psychological rest, go on the piss, have a few beers, go out with the family, have some nice food, see our friends and stuff like that. Because when it is training mode, it's like monk mode. And like you said, we like to be sociable and stuff. So for me, it all depends on what gaps we've got in between competitions. But one thing I've always done, even back from early powerlifting days, as soon as the competition was done, just relax and reset. Because I remember one of my old mentors, he said to me, if you're not willing to come back into the gym, like ready to take everyone's head off, you're not ready to come back into the gym.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean do nothing. It doesn't mean do absolutely nothing, but there should be a plan of action of deload, recovery, both in the gym and psychologically, which we've just spoke about. So training-wise, for me, I just tend to doss around a little bit. I'll do a bit of bodybuilding. I might jump on the bike a little bit for a week. I might go for a little jog. It just depends on what the competition is and how fatigued and what cost on the body it's had. Like for this time, for you, the Lakeland, it's had a big impact on the body. But for you, obviously, well, you tell us what training you've done since the Lakeland, because the body's been...
We'll talk about that phase, actually. Coming back from Andorra, I knew it was around 5 to 6 weeks then before the Lakeland. So the reason we picked Andorra was for, it's like a B race for the A race kind of thing, prepping. So the distance is done, the elevation is done, all that kind of stuff, that's fine. But I still needed to train and still need to probably take 2 to 3 big runs off before the big one. Probably a little bit physically, but more from a mental standpoint to go, right now I'm still actually decent here. But without us realising, the body's got battered in Andorra. We didn't recover amazing, but we had easily probably 10 days after where we did minimal stuff. We were just doing bike erg work, just doing assault bike stuff that's non-impact, letting the bodies actually rest. Because when you do these big ultramarathons, especially in the mountain ones as well, I don't think you realise how much impact you actually take on the body. Like, we felt pretty fresh to run again, but from a skin point of view, bones point of view, like, things were twisted up. Now, obviously then coming into the Lakeland, possibly 2 very big races, still probably too close to each other, but fuck it anyway, we'll do what we want to do. The aftermath of the Lakeland's been completely different. Because obviously picking up a little niggle during it, but then the after and then running through it, I had pretty much a week of not really wanting to train. One, I couldn't really walk properly anyway, so it was pointless. but pretty much a week of being a bit like, not asked.
This is
Not
the
asked.
reason
And
why-
I did actually chill out after Lakeland. I went to a spa,
Yeah.
I did nothing for the day, but because I was in pain, can't be asked.
Yeah, and this is that whole need for that psychological rest.
Yeah.
And I always have it every time, and we encourage our clients to do the same, don't we? We obviously set some kind of metric. So for example, a client does a competition, we will say, right, for the next 2 weeks, here's a bunch of sessions, here's some recovery methods, here's some fush, have a fush on the bike, do whatever you need to
What do
do.
you think?
But socially, go and have some fun, go and relax, go and spend time with family, because when we do lock in, we are fully locked in. So yeah, I think that, and everybody's different, right? There are some people that just jump from next comp to next comp, but I think with those people, I don't see much change from comp to comp. When we go into competition, we want to significantly make a difference in the competition. We want to PB properly, we want to run faster, we want to get bigger climbs
Or further, whatever it's going to be.
whatever it is. So for me, this is why it solidifies our structure and our strategy of pulling back, recovering, both physically and psychologically, because like I said, we often see people that bounce from comp to comp, they just don't get any faster, they don't get any better, they don't get any stronger. And I think one of the reasons is because they can't differentiate themselves from very intense blocks of training and recovery. It all becomes one of the same thing. It's like exercising, it's not training with specific outcomes. When we train, it's very, very planned, methodical.
Would you say, thinking of high rocks, is that some of the issues some people have? They book on every week of high rocks.
Yeah.
Every comp that's ever available, they book on.
Yeah, and it's hard to, because obviously people really enjoy it. Like
Yeah.
it's a fun event, isn't it? There's a big crowd there, everyone's buzzing. It's one of those events where people love. But I think one of the mistakes people make is, especially in the early days of when you first come into high rocks, I think one of those things is that people get that giddy about it. They just want to keep doing more. I want to do another. And it's not wrong to do, because people want to experience it and have fun. But to really make a difference, you don't keep doing the comp. To really make a difference, you do very tough, specific blocks of training in whatever's needed for you, whether it's strength. Well, everybody needs a combination of them all, but you find your weakness, right? But intense, very, very hard, intense blocks of training followed by recovery, then compete and see what difference you've made. People fall into that trap of just keep doing the same thing over and over again, which is why we don't see many people progressing as much as they should. If they adopted, not saying that our way is the right way, but if they adopted more of an approach of very intense training with, performance-based outcomes and recovery, I think people would be way better off.
I think it's important as well to look at, like we were talking about, we've had Andorra, we've had these races, etc. You've done your main race. I have no intention to do another race for the rest of the year of that style, because I've not got anything left in the cup. Motivation-wise, don't get me wrong, your motivation's always there to train, but motivation to go to that kind of pain threshold and that kind of level of fatigue, I'm not in the vibe for.
Yeah.
Because I know it's pointless. I'm not going to get better next year unless I spend time away from this.
So what are you going to do now? How do we build the engine again ready for next year?
So a lot of my endurance-based stuff is now bike work. There'll be 1 or 2 runs a week to stay relevant and just to keep, because I like trail, literally that. But there'll be no distance, there'll be nothing major going on. I won't be going to the lakes every weekend like we have been doing. Like, it could be road bike, it'll be assault bike based, and that'll be it. But then the main key thing for me is build strength back up. It's getting back under a barbell, getting back in the gym and getting strong again, ready for next year. Like I'm now thinking about June next year when the main race is. But that's a long time away. So I've now got segmented little blocks in there. I've got a high rocks end of October with a client. Yeah, but then we've got turf games where I'm back on the barbells, I'm back on the erg work. And it's just, then I've got a new avenue now, a new kind of focus and direction to just kind of ease myself through into kind of off season or whatever you want to call it. But
and I think
some new parameters to focus on.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand we are hybrid athletes, right? So, if you're a purist, as I like to call them, if you're a pure runner, then you would be doing right now you would be
Off-season
following
running block.
You would be following a running block. But seeing as though that we are hybrid athletes and we're trying to do a few different things, this is how we phase our training, isn't it? So we know that not a lot of running is needed, so we focus in other areas. But if you was just an all-out runner, you would be into an off-season running block, and that would be your main focus. So I think it's important for people that are listening to understand that our context is through the eyes of a hybrid athlete, and that it's not through just a runner. Like, we don't win 100-mile races, we compete in 100
18-hour ones, baby.
We don't win 100-mile races, we do very well, we hit some good paces that's respectable, but if we was looking to win something, then it would obviously be all tailored towards that. But
Context, I got skinny for this and I was still big. That's the contrast of like the people you're coming against. Like we felt bigger amongst skinny people, like, but we actually are withered.
That's it. I think the take-home point is find a way in between competitions for for people listening. Find a way that really does suit you. If you've got back-to-back events coming up, understand that there won't be much training time to improve. That means your mental deload, the window gets shorter because of that. If you've got bigger gaps, you've got a little bit more flexibility to, stretch the band off a little, slack the band off a little bit, recover a little bit, enjoy the social times a little bit, and prep for the next one. The key is to make sure that your training block is worthwhile to improve performance. That's the biggest thing.
I think making sure, remember, your cup is only so big. Like we were saying, you've only got so many races in you, but over time and experience of doing these events, the cup does get bigger. From shot glasses through to pint glasses, that's how you can look at it, yeah? That's how our kind of style is. On a Stein now.
Yeah.
Every time we do a bigger mileage, a bigger elevation, whatever it's be, you've got that little bit more space to fit more into your calendar.
Yeah, correct.
But we're still babies in the game. We've still got loads more we can fit.